Up.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Woodard. I am terrified of public speaking, and if I could have denied doing this without repercussions, I would have. However, we all have such an important story to tell, and if I don't share my testimony, what's the point? So for Jesus, here we go. I was raised in a home that was filled with alcohol, drugs, adultery, witchcraft, emotional abuse, physical abuse, parties, and more. I had a front row seat to my parents participating in relationships outside of marriage, drug abuse happening in my front yard, physical fights, and mostly what I felt like everyday chaos. At 6 years old, my parents decided to divorce. I can still remember the pain that this brought my little heart. Custody was shared, and I still continued to see both parents. Not long after, my mom started to look for a church. We found one she felt a part of, and it was the first time that I heard about Jesus. I witnessed a major heart change in her, and we started to regularly attend. My mom has always been my safe place. And I believe that it was her prayers that brought me to where I am today. At this church, my mom met her now husband, my stepdad, Ray. They married, and we were now a mixed family, which was really challenging. We were at church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday nights, and any time an event was happening. Through all of this, I was in and around church, but I never experienced God for myself. I started to party and found ways to temporarily numb my broken little heart. The partying never stopped. In fact, it got worse. Days wouldn't pass that I was not getting belligerently drunk. I had multiple relationships and lived a life that honored nothing of my Lord. After graduating high school, I functioned enough to work and go to school full-time. My mom and stepdad moved for a job relocation, and I decided to stay so I didn't have such a long drive to and from school and work. In doing this, I bounced place to place, and there were times that I spent my entire paycheck on rent. Alcohol gave me temporary peace in my chaos. It boosted my confidence. It helped me forget. It allowed me to keep burying all my pain from past and current events, and it seemed like the only working solution. One night at a party, I spotted Brandon standing next to his truck talking to a friend, and I remember thinking in my head, man, I want to marry a man like him. But not him, because I was in a relationship and he wasn't my type. He just kind of sort of had it together. He had a house, he had a good job, and he was nice. But years went by and we had partied as friends a couple of times, and one night I thought I'd see if he wanted to hang out. I thought, I'm bored, I need a drink, I know he'll drink with me. I texted him and asked him if he would come and hang out, and he replied that he would, but that he couldn't drink because he had his work truck. And I thought, oh great, that sounds like an absolutely terrible time. But I thought, well, whatever, I'll drink and I'll just invite him over. When he arrived, actually, neither of us ended up drinking, and we sat for hours upon hours. And for the first time in my life, I felt like someone actually understood me. And I really thought, did we just become best friends? We went our ways and soon started to hang out more and more. Not long after, he asked me to date him, and after that, the rest is history. Or so I wish. When we got together, we both actually drank a lot, and because of this, our relationship suffered. We argued a lot, and eventually we ended up ending the relationship. I got an apartment with a friend and continued in my ways. The only way at this point in my life that I could find peace, joy, or satisfaction was with drugs or alcohol. My value was found in the opinion of others. And for as long as I could remember, I felt no value at all because the opinions of others were not kind or never enough. I lived my life as if there were no God at all, or that as if I was in fact my own God. In November of 2013, I went to a party with friends, of course. I was out until 5 a.m. and had to be to work at 6. I was still almost drunk, and I made my way there. I went home for a quick break, and as I returned, nurses were running down the hall. They were all screaming, "A tornado has touched the ground. It is nearby. Get the residents in the hall." Pure panic arose, and people were rushing all around. People were screaming and crying literally everywhere I turned. It sounded like the loudest freight train was about to hit, and there were items flying through all the windows. I remember getting down on my knees so fearful and crying out to God, please spare my life. I am so sorry, and I do not want to leave the world in this way. Please forgive me. Not long after, the noises calmed and we sat in complete silence. The tornado passed, and somehow we were all still there. The construction company said that the roof was actually completely lifted off the building and set back down. I walked outside to find a tree had fallen on my car. I finally reached my best friend through a call. Thankfully, she was safe, but our apartment building was not, and we were not able to access anything in it. I found myself searching for help. Where will I live? What am I going to drive? The first person that came to mind was Brandon. He has always been my saving grace. He came to pick me up, and I didn't even know what emotions to feel. I felt numb. But at a time that I had nothing, I found God to be that something. A pastor from Dixon my mom knew called me every single day to pray for me. A family friend gave me a car to drive. A church raised a tithe just for me to help get me back on my feet. I had people help pay for my gas and give me free clothes. All of these people portrayed the love of Jesus, and all I could do was thank him for saving my life and for sending me help. This woke me up in a huge way. But unfortunately, I continued back down the same path. I started to live at Brandon's in a separate room, but occasionally our friendship went beyond God's design and intention. I was drinking again and just making it through the best way I knew how. At this time, I wanted to be with Brandon again, but he specifically said, Tiffany, I told you the last time, if you break up with me one more time, that's it. I'm not doing this again. Eventually, I gave up trying. And at this point in my life, I said, fine, I'm done. I actually passed the HESI A2 exam. I was accepted into the nursing program. I was approved for a home loan, and I said, great, I'm moving on. Of course, at this point in time, Brandon decided, wait, maybe we can work this out. And I was like, no way. I was set to close on my house that Friday, and the Wednesday before, I was so tired and nauseous. I thought, surely just a hangover, except it never went away. I decided to take a pregnancy test, and lo and behold, I would be pregnant with our sweet Sadie. I ended up canceling the home loan because after freaking out and then a calm discussion, Brandon and I decided maybe we should try to make this work. After all, we do have a baby on the way. February 6, 2015, our sweet baby girl was born, a true gift from God. This forced Brandon and I to grow up a little. However, we were still two kids battling all sorts of trauma or challenging life events, so we continued to do what we knew best, drink. In July of 2016, we married, and in 2016, I found out we'd be having another baby. June 20th, 2017, sweet Isaac was born, yet another gift of God. In December of 2017, we decided to move to a safer area to raise the kids and found a house in Germantown Hills. After being here for some time, I just felt like something was missing. I felt like this can't be it. There has to be more. And Brandon and I's relationship wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't healthy when alcohol was involved. In 2018, I told Brandon that we should try to find a church. And at first, Brandon was reluctant, but we tried Great Oaks down the road, and surprisingly, he really liked it. So did I. After regularly attending this church, we were finally beginning to understand the gospel. For the first time in my life, it was actually making sense. I began to understand God's great love for me and his never-ending grace. We were both starting to be transformed and connected with some really awesome people. In 2019, Brandon and I decided to rededicate our lives to Christ, and we got baptized. And I feel like from this point on is where God really began a great work. I started to have major convictions about the way I was living my life and about drinking. I started to pray that God would please just take this desire to drink from my heart. I prayed and I prayed. I prayed for 2 years that God would just free me from this addiction. But he knew I needed way more than just the willpower to make it through. He knew I needed a complete transformation from the inside out. On December 26th of 2020, God gave me the courage to say with my heart and my mouth that I am done. Also in 2020, our church began to experience what I will just call spiritual warfare, because it's true. We don't battle against flesh and blood, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, Ephesians 6:12. We ended up leaving the church and began a church search. We had found property in Tremont that we had dreamt of, with a house we planned to fix up, and we thought, wow, God is giving us relief. Lo and behold, we would agree on a purchase price to find the house to be a non-repairable condition, well past what we could see beyond the walkthrough, and it needed to be demolished. Between this and the church split and breaking up with my best friend Booze, I was struggling. I needed desperate help, so I saw a counselor at Northwoods, and he let me cry for hours. He recommended I try a class that they offer called Regeneration. After a couple of weeks, Brandon was convicted and decided to stop drinking as well. We decided that we should attend Regen. It was worth a shot because literally nothing is working right now, and it couldn't hurt. We need all the help that we can get. Since the house was not livable, we moved in with my mom in Towanda and decided to convert 2 job trailers on the property into our home. As I look back now, I can remember thinking, is this what happens when you follow Jesus? And I can positively say yes. When you follow Jesus, things don't always go the way that you plan them. They don't always work out the way that we think they should. But I want to take a moment to thank God for working everything out according to his purpose and will and not my desire, because the following year had been the most transformative time of my entire life. And in all of it, I experienced God on a whole new level in ways I never had before. I had to lean on him and trust him more than I ever have in my entire life. Through taking this class, God started to reveal his great love for me. He started to reinvent my identity and started in me a new heart. I realized that through not drinking, I cannot suppress my anxiety or suppress my hurts. I had to lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. I had to forgive a lot of people. I had to accept God's grace for me in my past and in my day-to-day walk. I found that God's love was not conditional like most parents seem to be. That in every single stage I have ever been in and have yet to be in, God has loved me all the same, deeply and unconditionally. I discovered that I have the gift of anxiety. I call it a gift because it forced me to rely on God for my peace and to constantly seek him and his presence. I had episodes of anxiety attacks, a couple so bad they led me straight to the emergency room. Through all of this, I had to get to the core of my fear. And I found that all of my fear resides around death. Fear of death. After much constant surrender, God kept reminding me that I do not have to be afraid, that he loves me, and there is no fear in perfect love, because perfect love casts out fear. If we fear, it is for fear of punishment, and it shows that we have not fully experienced his perfect love. 1 John 4:18. He would give me visions of him holding me tightly in his arms as powerful waves surrounded and crashed all around us. There I was in his arms, perfectly safe and calm. He has given me peace in ways no substance or situation has ever given me. His great love changes everything. He reminded me that death has no hold on me and that this is not it. That in the end, we have the victory, and the fullness of true life and absolute perfection is our free gift as believers. This is my hope. This is my joy. He completely revamped my identity and reminded me that I am chosen. 1 Peter 2:9. I am a good work. Philippians 1:6. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. I was bought with a price. 1 Corinthians 6:20. I am comforted. Psalm 23:4. Before I was formed, he knew me. Jeremiah 1:5. His spirit lives in me. 1 Corinthians 3:16. He has given me the gift of eternal life. John 14:19. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. He gives me peace, not like the world gives. John 14:27. Outside of God, his words, and his promises, I no longer need the validation of others. He has exposed all the lies I believed in full force and filled them with his truth. 861 days ago, God gave me a vision. I was in our tub, and all of a sudden a dark force came over me. It pushed me under the water, and it held me there. I couldn't breathe or move. It was way too strong. All I could do was in my mind cry out, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And as I did, it would let me up. But again, it pushed me under. The third time, I had to cry out with every ounce of my body and soul. And as I did, that demon was forced to let me go and leave. Also, 861 days ago, I had my last sip of alcohol. The demon that held me down and suppressed me for most of my life was forced to leave when I called on the most powerful, almighty name of Jesus with all of my body and soul. Praise you, oh God. He has freed me from shackles and chains that I have dealt with and carried my entire life. When we moved to Tremont and started converting the trailer and dwelling, we had neighbors come out of the woodworks to support us. Matt Miller introduced himself and constantly checked on us. He did all the drywall mud in the entire house. Kevin King provided an HVAC system and spent countless hours after work to help us get this thing up and running. The Allwards provided us firewood to keep us warm and their house to stay for an entire weekend while they went on a trip. Mike Endres trenched our water line. All the neighbors who showed up, they all attended Northfield, so we knew this was the place to be. My mom and Ray, they gave us a place to stay, warm meals to eat, a Monday night sitter. Ryan and Sherry provided us a place to stay, countless nights helping us with flooring, building, water lines, everything. They all provided much love, prayer, and support. My sister and brother-in-law, where are they? Over there. Everybody's here. It's so great. My sister and brother-in-law, they came anytime that we asked for help. They were there. Brody and Carly, they gave us a gift card from the money he made from a sermon. Guys, the love and sacrifices that people were giving us during this time showed us God's love in such an incredible, tangible way. We really felt his love. He also showed Brandon and I that through a year-long commitment of attending this class, that he would bless us. I cannot praise God enough. I have never experienced love, joy, or peace in the way that he has given to me. No bottle, no drug, not even the birth of my children has brought me joy the way that God freely gives. Life with God is a daily surrender. I am so thankful for a patient, loving God who meets me each day. And when I forget, he meets me in my weakness. I'm thankful for the process of sanctification and God's daily grace and the opportunity to fall and surrender to the King of Kings, the creator and sustainer of all, and most of all, to be with him in complete perfection one day again. I am a work in progress. I am just thankful that God is allowing me to be his work in progress and that he never gave up on me. And I am so thankful that he brought me out of that grave and into his light, where true life, regardless of any circumstance, is found. Thank you.